This is for the leaders, the visionaries, the hope bringers, kindness instigators. This is your place to get loved, poured into, activated, and inspired. Well, good morning. Welcome to Fireside Friday, December 19th, 2025. And this weekend, we're going into winter solstice. I still find that concept more poetic than I have actually spent time in reflection about it. And I think even the word solstice, if you had said it to me a few years ago, I still feel like it might I don't know, not that not that anything specific set against it, but it's almost like I associate it with something that feels a little foreign or a little mysterious. Um, and I guess especially too, like I have no context for it, not really, because much of my life was marked more by still pagan tradition within the Christian church, but there's not a lot of, from my experience of being inside of organized religion, there's not really much recognition or honoring of nature, which is interesting to me too, when I really have sat with that and sat with what that looks like. If I believe that we're part of nature, what does that mean? And so for solstice, the word literally means um, sun standing still. And we use that term usually in June for the longest day of the year and in the winter for the shortest um, amount of light, the shortest day. And and this has been a season very much of me kind of leaning into what does winter in nature, like what does my little body in nature crave during winter? Because most of the time, what has happened is that I have focused on the lack of light, and the missing of that light instead of the consideration of what happens in the stillness of the darkness. What happens in the winter when things rest, when they take a pause. And I heard recently, I think I saw a post or someone was talking about winter as a spirit. And I think that gave me a different context too to think about the season that we're inside of. If I treat a season more like a spirit or a soul, what do I notice about them as I spend time with them? Again, instead of kind of throwing myself against a rock of what I'm missing, instead going, well, what is there to be found? What might be found in the stillness? What might be found in the darkness? And much again, much of the, I guess, I mean, tone in my life, both my parents even bemoan the dark, rainy days. It doesn't matter, middle of the summer, dark, rainy, or even now when it gets darker. I mean, both of them just constantly, oh, we hate winter, we hate winter. And I love the light too. But that was I never saw anyone in my life embracing winter. And so I feel like that was almost kind of like a habit I picked up. And, the same things that we have rituals and rites that we come through that our family hands to us. And I think much of this winter, especially, it's been a little bit easier to break away and focus again on, well, being with winter, like I said, as a soul, as a spirit. And that has moved me more into softness, more into embracing that dark, like yawning. Um, do I feel like I need to go to bed earlier because the sun left? Maybe. Um, But I just feel like, and I even I created a playlist too, and I'll link it in the show notes. Um, just feeling into winter, and it's been so interesting. I actually went over to a friend's a couple, maybe last weekend, and she had a Christmas playlist playing, and I still have been really on a journey of like what this season means to me, what it gets to look like as I've been deconstructing and really thinking about what this time of the year, how I want to celebrate or not celebrate Christmas, how I want to decorate or not decorate, all of those things. I haven't struggled as much with some of those rituals that I did maybe last year, but they're still there for me. I'm still kind of analyzing what they look like. So she was playing a Christmas list, and they're all Christmas songs that we know they're like pretty bright, peppy um, songs. And to me, they felt at odds with how I feel like the winter season feels to me. Not that it can't be happy or joyful. And so I actually asked if I could play the playlist, and and the room like kind of changed the dynamic, of course. But I mentioned that story to another friend, and they're like, "Well, I want to hear your playlist." And so she sent back maybe a day or two later. She said, "Your winter playlist is so restorative." What a word. Like, and it's how I felt, but maybe didn't put language to, because it's very soft. It's a very soft feeling playlist. And again, I was trying to really lean into the essence of what I feel like winter means to me. Um, and so to have that word restorative, I think often when we again think of darkness or the shortest day of the year, um, so much I think that we have missed in the glorification of the light. I think that's ultimately what I was getting to when I was talking to you about my family and religion. There is so much focus on the light, and light overcoming darkness. And I'm wondering, do we need to overcome darkness? What if there's a reframe here of what if we tried to understand darkness, or even what would it look like to embrace darkness? And I don't mean that as a eve, and that's the other part we get into is like darkness has been used in the context of evil. And of course, we don't want evil things. But these archetypes really do keep us stranded and stuck and struck in such a dichotomy that often too, when we're in that contraction of a hard moment, I think sometimes, and especially when we have the seasons, well, the holidays happening in winter, where we have these regular rhythms and rituals that most of us partake in, when someone's absence to those things is it's felt quite deeply at times like this. Again, when we're seeing images and pictures of, you know, people who look very happy and warm, and you're supposed to be really happy right now, but it's okay if you're not. What if, again, winter, like any other season, gets to be who she is, and we get to find ourselves in relationship with that? And that could still mean that we don't like it. That's okay. For me, I felt a lot better. Even in summer, I'm not a heat girl. And I feel like that has been very much a journey for me over the last couple years is to embrace um, seasons as these transitions of archetypes that I get to be in relationship with, and and also analyzing. Um, Why does the darkness trigger me so much? Does it trigger me? Because what I've actually found too is as I've embraced more of that, as I've leaned more into it, I actually really like winter. I like the time of slowing down. And I like the stark contrast of the hush with soft lights too, with candles, with not LED lights. I'm not really a fan. I mean, I guess if we tune them too. I saw somebody recently, this is totally like a rabbit. Um, there was a car that what somebody shared had been pulled over, and I'd never seen cars like this till this year where they have like almost like a net of lights on them, like it looks like it's part of the car. And there's just lights all over it, just like you would expect like a Christmas tree, but they're all different colors, but they are LEDs. And in the comment thread was funny because the police officer pulled them over, and someone was like, "Good, that guy's an eyesore. I see him everywhere." And some people were like, "Let him have fun. It's only this time of the year." And then other people were like, "Well, it's illegal for you to have blue lights on your car if you're not law enforcement," which I didn't look into any of this. I was just interested in the dynamic of what was going on in the comments, how everyone was reacting to this car, because I'd seen one or two around, and I was like, "Huh." That's fun. I've never seen that. Um, and I could see how it might be distracting, but some of the comments in this is what made me think of this. Some of the comments in the thread were talking about how they would much rather have those eyesores than the LED beams of just regular headlights. And I was like, I feel that. So, because they're so like disruptive. I was telling my mom that too. She was actually talking about in her house, like she comes home right now and the boys still both live there. And she's like, every time I come home right now in the winter, all the lights are on in the house. They're all on. And it's not even an energy thing, it's like a stimulus thing. And I'm like, that is a rule here in my home. We don't use the top light. We do not use the top light. There are these Canon lights in here, and they are so bright, but they're that blue LED light. And so in here, I have like a lamp and another like bulb that's very soft yellow. Um, and even the one in our room, it's like programmed to be, like a yellow tone. And anytime I know Serge doesn't know the nuance of telling Alexa what to turn the bulb to. Actually, too, if you guys have Alexa bulbs, I really like setting it to sunset. It'll do that. Like it's a color. But soft white light is what I ask it for. So I know Serge has been in there because if I come on and it's like this stark white, he just says turn it white, I think. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. But we also, that's another way too that, we lean in or know, or feel into what regulates what feels good. And I really feel like as we approach this solstice, this sun standing still this weekend for the shortest day of the year, what does that look like for us to lean into darkness, not as something that we need to run from, but maybe something that we get to find ourselves in relationship with and to? And what does that mean? And like I said, it could mean a lot of different things for many of us, depending on where we find ourselves in this winter season. But I really think that the stillness that we're being offered right now is so important and so restorative, for when we hope to create meaningful work. That also requires, I think, a meaningful existence for ourselves. I think that's a really like something that I really missed in a lot of my endeavors. Yeah, the things that I was creating, they were good things. But I was out of union with myself. I didn't have enough stillness. I didn't have enough relationship with me to actually know and honor what my rhythms are instead of, again, being inside of some system or some way that I grew up making myself wrong. And so as I spent more time with me as a soul, as a being, as an entity, valuing my own perspective and my own experience, changed everything for me. And ironically too, like that's been part of my work since I can remember as a person, is helping them come alongside that relationship with them, to slow down, ask those questions that take people deeper. But I wasn't going deep enough myself. And I think something that's really beautiful about the stillness of winter is I do think that if we will embrace it or make time for it, um, winter is very clarifying. There is that it feels a little stark, even if hushed. And so, as things are quiet, what wants to be heard, what wants to be noticed in this stillness, and what wants to be restored? Because as the light builds back up, and our energy might change too as we head into the spring later on. I'm not rushing through winter. Like I said, I'm really embracing this season. Um, and it's been one that's been actually like really rich with a lot of warmth too, of being warm, of appreciating and being grateful for a space where I am warm, where my family's safe, and just like even in the winter season too, when the land rests, when we rest with it if we'll let ourselves. But again, much of our culture and society upticks right now. Very busy, your calendar stretched. So even if you're feeling stretched in this season and there's a lot of demands on your time, I feel like the invitation right now is still into some stillness. And then from that stillness, taking action or being in that momentum or being in the frame. So even if the holidays are coming in fierce and fast. Like, where can you even take some moments of stillness to restore your energy before you go inside, when you're leaving, when you come home? Uh, one of the things too that I think I had to do yesterday, because I got to a point where I was just really overstimulated and I had been pouring so much of myself out, especially into gifts that I'm creating and making and thinking about, um, is that I had to come to a point where I was like, oof, like I am super depleted. And I sat down on the couch and I really just took some like breaths to like ground myself and like disconnect, but reconnect. And Serge saw me do it and he was like, is that about me? And I was like, no, it's about me. I'm like regulating myself. Like, you go and stay in there. Um, but I think it's also really interesting because I've watched, or as I've been more vocal or let Serge even see me in my process of recalibrating, it has actually been really helpful for him in his work and in his own stress. And I think I'm always reminded of like what happens in our homes when we model these things. Um, and one of the things too that he's noticing about himself is that he gets overstimulated. He has language now for it, I guess. And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know what this feeling was." Um, anyway. Okay, let's go to our card. And I pulled out a deck. I was drawn back to this deck. This was actually my first deck that I ever purchased on my own. It's called the Herbal Astrology Oracle. Not because I know much about astrology. Like I feel like such a newbie. Um, but it's like I'm dancing with it and around it, spiraling into as I need things show up. Anyway, it's really beautiful. And so today we have Skullcap, Stillness. Let me pull it back over here. So, stillness after the storm, let go of control. These are kind of like the high notes of what the card mean. Um, Trust in life, surrender to the divine plan, break open. This deck also, it has upright and reverse. So the other side of the card could mean breakdown, fright, post-traumatic stress disorder, unable to move on, and broken. So there's really kind of two ways to be in connection with this card. I pulled it in the upright position, so that's the way that I'm reading this card. But you can listen into if it felt like mine would definitely be in reverse. That's okay too. Again, we don't have to vilify one or the other. There's just something for us to receive and be a relationship with, just like winter. Um, okay, skullcap's genus name, Scutellaria, comes from the Latin scutella, meaning a small dish or tray. This describes the shape of the calyx at the base of the flowers, which resembles a miniature skull. I'm going to pull this closer into frame to see if you can see it a little better. It's still kind of really dim in here. I'm sorry. In traditional Chinese medicine, the roots of the species Colattaria biocolonesis have been widely used for more than 2,000 years to treat cancer, lung and respiratory infections, colds, bacterial pneumonia, liver imbalances, hypertension, insomnia, inflammation, and diarrhea. The Cherokee and other North American tribal peoples use skullcap to ceremonially initiate young girls into womanhood. The Cherokee created uh, decoctions decoctions of the roots to treat breast pain, menstrual pain, kidney problems, and to stimulate the reproductive system post-birth. The Iroquois used an infusion of the powdered roots to prevent smallpox and to keep the throat clear. During the 19th and 20th centuries, the it was like the eclectic physicians prescribed skullcap for nervousness, exhaustion, muscular spasms, heart disorders, hysterias, uncontrollable muscular tremors, and convulsions. Spiritually, skullcap is used to bind oaths and consecrate commitments. It is a useful ally in initiation rituals, imprinting the vows made to oneself or between lovers. Skullcap is ruled by Pluto, the archetype representing our will and power, which ties our relationships to our inner authority and leadership. Guidance. The storm has passed. You just weathered or are weathering a storm. Ground deeply into the present moment. If you feel fear, find consolation in stillness as it readapts. The medicine of Scorpion embodies the stillness of darkness, and it assists by accepting sudden change with ease and calm. If you're feeling exhausted, drained, or depleted, this is the time to pause and withdraw to your cave. You're in the process of rebuilding after the storm. Don't rush, reflect, take the time to birth a new structure that supports a new vision of yourself. I really love this card too because not only does it really honor what we've been talking about is not rushing, reflecting, being in the stillness of the darkness. But it's also just a reminder that you are always co-creating who you are. It's always there. It's ever present. We're dynamic. We shift and we change. And so this winter season, what is this darkness offering you? What is it bringing you? What is it actually bringing to light as you take hold of that? What does it look like to be in the stillness of the darkness? I'll see you next week.